here we are in the final project in Access. And I did save it as Module 3. We are modifying the database. Yes?
I was working on mine on my other computer.
Uh-huh.
Is it okay if I just go and I put it on my
That'll work. Run and put it on your Google Drive. Good to hear you know how to use your Google Drive well. That is a wonderful way to transfer files. And remember, as we opened our database, we can see things in there by our little navigator pane. We can open or close our navigator pane. Am I in the right place? What happened to all my queries? Oh, they're hiding under here. I can collapse my queries. Don't have to see that huge list of queries from before. But because I've given them good names to go with their page number, I can always review them. We'll be coming back to that. But remember what we did here. We modified our database. We made some little modifications to it. Let's see what we did here. Remember where we were? Where we went to our account table, right-click Design View, or select it and click. I don't know why the little triangle-y thing is gray right now. It's weird. If I right-click Design View, it puts me in the design view of that table. And remember what we did? We added these two fields, account type and services needed. We made them lookup types using our little lookup wizard. If we ever wanted to explore what in the world we did or to fix it, we can go down here to the lookup part of it after selecting that field. And I can see in the lookup what it actually does for us as it goes through the wizard. I would recommend you leave this stuff alone unless you really know what you're doing, because you can easily break things and it's hard to decipher. Here's the one thing that's helpful. There's where I listed my services needed. And if I have a misspelling or something, I'd probably be safe at changing the spelling. But I'd be very careful to mess with this stuff unless you're wanting to learn about it and you have a backup of what you did. Okay, so we changed those field types. We added a multi-value field. And let's see where that is. That was this guy, the services needed. We had multiple services that we applied, and those are there listed as available. Now, to see how this works, we go back to the datasheet view. And I'm going to collapse that so I can see over here. I'm going to go over to that column. Where is it? Here it is. And this is how it behaves. Multiple things can be checked. And I can choose one of the account types. So in the book they have us just go randomly assign some things to that. And let's see, we want a calculated field actually in our table. So let's go back to our account manager number. Oh, we're going to go back to Design View. Make sure I'm in the right table. I'm looking on page AC 130 something. We're going to add a calculated field inside the table itself. Yep. Just come over here. If you have it set up right, when you click on one of the services needed or accounts, you should see a little pull down. If you click on that little arrow. Yep. So that shows how by adding a lookup, you give this capability to the changing of the data. Oh, that's more for playing. I'm not gonna worry about it. The main thing I'll look at is, did you make those two additional fields? Now we're adding another field. We're going to add another field. This time, just like we did a calculated field back in queries, we can make a calculated field actually in the table itself. So we go to total amount, or go to account manager. We're going to put a row up above this one. So we select in the gray, and then right click, insert row. A Rows, just like Excel, inserts above. The name I'm going to give this field is total amount. And for the type of data, we're going to look at our available data types and look at what we can find here. Down here, looky, we can put in a calculated field. At this point, you should be familiar enough and thinking about future tests that whenever you're given a field, although the default is short text, if the name of the field is like account, budget, or currency amount, or number of lates, number of absences, or grade point average, the name of the field should imply the type of data. Most of the time, if it's just something we type in, short text will do. But so suppose I'm keeping track of birthday or a date hired. That would be a date time, not a short text, and not a number. Auto number, we leave it for access to assign a number. Usually we only let that do that for the primary key, the ID. Sometimes we're going to have a yes or no. Are they active or not? I can have a yes/no field. Attachments, you're going to need to know that an attachment lets you allow you to attach files. Okay, so back to the bottom here, calculated field. Oh, that should look familiar to you. We saw this expression builder back in queries. And what we're going to put here in the calculation is just like we did with queries. Let's see if we can make Excel do some of the work, or sorry, Access do some of the work for us. Let's try to double click underneath the account table, have it selected. Let's try to double click amount paid, and then we have to type the plus sign, and then double click current due. So just like the expression builder in the query, the square brackets around that mean that's the name of the field it's going to perform a calculation of. Whatever happens to be there, if it's blank, it'll treat it as mathematically as a 0. Current due. And now I click OK. And all I see here is calculated. But let's view Datasheet view and see what that shows up as. It'll ask me, do I want to save changes? And I'm going to click yes. And now let's see how that appears in my table. Total amount, expand that. Look at that. It's adding it up, putting it in my table now. It's actually, anytime I enter data, that total amount is recalculated. Now this is a little bit redundant because I could have calculated from there, but sometimes to save time or to make it easy to search for things, I can put that calculated field right inside my table. Remember how I did that? Total amount, chose the calculated field. Now, if I ever want to modify that, if I go back to calculated, does it tell me the calculation? Let's take a look at properties. There it is. So the expression gets filled in there. So once you have done that, change it to a calculated field. If you find a problem, you either have to delete that and start over, or I can come over here and click the ellipsis and edit that with the expression builder. So I can get back to the expression builder by going down into the general properties. Sometimes that's handy. Again, you will be probably given databases like this. Now you won't be completely ignorant when you come and look at a database or happen to see someone working on one. You'll know what they're doing. If you like databases, you can make good money. If this stuff is not too hard for you, you can actually help a lot of people. Because notice, I'm sure you've seen this Access can be pretty confusing, but it's very powerful. So we've saved this change now. And remember, any of these changes, I'm changing the structure of the database. If I want to change the data inside it, I can edit it right in Datasheet View. And anytime I'm making major changes, remember, in a real company, you'll have a backup before you consider any of these kind of changes. You'll have a second version someone will work on. Alright, so I'm done with that. Now we're going to do something more dangerous. we've decided that all our accounts, we're going to update them to a specific type of account. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a query that's called an update query. We're going to make all our accounts change to type COM, commercial. I think that's what that stood for. So, first we create a regular query, and then we turn it into an update query. So let's create a query using Query Designer, using the account table only. Double-click the account table, and then close. Close there or there. And the only thing we care about looking at is the service type, the SER, service, or account type. Now before I turn it into update query, I'm just going to run it first. And I see it's listing, some accounts have nothing there. What this means is just show me what's in the account type field for everything in my table. Now I'll go back to the query design. And now we're going to change this into an update query, which will add an additional line down here of what I can update things to. And I can just type in there SER. So now this is a query. Not only will it show me all accounts because there's no criteria, it will update that field to SER. So this can be a very dangerous query, and it does give you a warning when we run it. And so I click Run. It's warning me I'm about to update 15 rows, and you can't undo what this does. So this is why this is a very dangerous query. I think about it before clicking yes, then I click yes, and now what happened? Well, let's take a look. Let's go now and look at that account table and browse over to the column, and look at that. It made every record in there of type SER. That's why these are dangerous. It made a mass change to everything in my database. Very powerful, but very dangerous. So I made a query, changed its query type in the design to an update. The normal query is what they call a select query. It only shows you or selects data to show you. So that's why the update is very dangerous. And this would even be more dangerous. I can actually delete records that pass a certain criteria. So do not run a delete query unless you really know what you're doing. Now, although they say close the query, I would like to keep track of it for the future and just see what they look like. So I'm going to, instead of just closing it, I'm going to Control-S save it, and I'm going to call it, what page are we on? AC 140 something. I'll put 140. AC 140 update query. Because I want to know what they look like if I save them. And I close this. Now let's see what it looks like over here in the queries tables. If I see it, it shows up here at the bottom with the little exclamation point next to the, whatever that pencil, looks like a pencil. Now these are dangerous because if I just double click on that, it will actually want to run the query. But it's safe. I can always design view it just to see what that's going to do. It's going to update everything to SER. So update queries, and yeah, I'll go ahead and save the changes. So there's your first update query. I can clear out the data. If I write it wrong, I can completely mess up my database. Notice here in the query types, let's go ahead and just look at design view. If I'm in query design, look at the other types of queries that are possible. Although we're not going to make them all. You can actually create a table. You can create a new table from a query. Instead of deleting records, you can append records to a table. There's a crosstab query. I think we are going to play with crosstab queries. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to make a new query. I'm just closing that temporarily. I was just looking at temporarily. We're now going to modify our table again, going back to our account table, collapsing the queries. I'm going to right-click Design View again on my account table. This time we're decided that we need more room for street, the number of characters in a street address. To change any properties, I can come click on that, and down here I can change any of these properties. Don't change anything unless you want to explore. We're only playing with changing the field size to 25 for the street. Increasing the field size, it's never going to complain. It's happy to increase the field size. If I go back and view, save changes, it doesn't complain because I'm making more room. And there's no chance that I could have deleted data. But if I ever decide to shorten a field size, it's going to warn me. If anything there is longer than what you're asking for, it will affect the data. So shortening field sizes, it'll complain. So we changed the field size of the street to 25. And let's see if they want us to make anything else, other changes. Looks like we're not changing field sizes of anything else. But we do want to make sure that whenever they enter data, if I click on account name, we want to be sure that if they ever enter data here, they make sure to not leave the account name blank. So I'm going to put here, must not be blank in my comments, but that doesn't do anything. Down here, making it a required field will make it so I cannot leave entering new data without there being something in that account name. So I can double click on required and turn that to be yes. So there's one field I can make required. Can you think of any others here that should be required fields? I would think in the modern days here, we actually should have at least a website or email or phone contact. Besides a street address. But the book isn't asking us to make anything required but the account name. Because this one is a primary key, it automatically becomes required. Making it a primary key automatically makes it a required field. I didn't do any other changes except making account name required to be yes. And I was just looking at the settings for the other field. Made no changes. Now, we want to look at another field in the current due field. I'm going to look at the current due field. This one is a currency. And current due, we don't want to be less than 0. It wouldn't make sense for current due to be a negative number. So we're going to add a validation rule to the current due. And we can do that in fairly easily readable or understandable type of syntax here. We do greater than or equal together, the greater than symbol, then the equal symbol, and then the greater than or equal 0, and then the word and then less than or equal to 10,000. Now this doesn't mean that they can never owe us more than that. It means we can never enter into this database a number larger than 10,000. So we're here in the design view of the account table, adding a validation rule to the current due. And to be nice, we're also going to put a message here if they ever try to enter data that doesn't fit that validation rule. we're going to put, please enter a positive number less than $10,000. I think that's clearer than what they ask in the book. In the book they say must be at least 0.00 and at most 10,000. So the current due validation rule. I would think there should be the similar requirement. Let's see if they have other requirements on other fields. The default value, I think, even because it's currency, I think currency automatically becomes default 0, even if I don't put a default value in there. But I am going to bop up to the services needed, the account type, and we're setting the default value of the account type to be SER. Now that's a little weird. You'd think I would just put default value SER. Let's see if I do that and if it fills it in for me. I'm going to type SER and then leave, click somewhere else. It does put that in quotes. In the book they have a equal SER, and we'll find out whether the equal is really needed. I'm going to now go to Datasheet View, saving my changes. It's giving me a warning that remember I made a field required. He's going to warn me. I'm going to have to check to see if everything now has satisfied those new rules you made. And now let's go down and see. You won't see the default values until you come to the very last line where it's getting ready to enter data. If I browse over to the right here, I see that default value of SER is in there. And it won't make a new record until I start typing something. Let's see what it says if I enter a street address, 123 Payne Avenue, and then try to leave to go to a different record. It will say, wait a minute, you must enter a value in the account number field. See how that is a required field because it's a primary key. Okay, let's put in an account number, AA111. Now let's try to leave to go to another record. Uh-oh, you must enter a value in the account name field. That was made required. So let's do Joe. Joe's Grill. Okay, now it's happy to let me leave that record because that validation was accepted. So these are the kind of errors. If you leave something blank, it won't let you leave after starting a new record unless everything in that record is satisfied. Let's go over to that amount or current due, and let's try to put in a number larger than 10,000. Doesn't complain yet until I go to a different column, and there's my validation text. Please enter a positive number. That's how that validation text will show if I've not satisfied the rules. Let's see if I put it a bad number there. Oh, look at that. It won't even think about it until I fix having that slash in there. And if I ever get stuck, I can Control Z all the way back till there's not a new record being added. So you don't have to add this new record. I'm just playing with this. I'm going to Control Z back now to undo. Well, I should be able to. I thought I could. Maybe not. I guess I can delete that since I was just playing around with that. Okay, there's another validation rule. In account type, we want to have another validation rule there. So let's go back to Design. And let's select the account type field again. And down here we can add a new validation rule here with the terms equals SER or equals NON or equals IND. I can put that there in the validation rule, and then the text would say, please enter one. I'll just put please enter SER, NON, or IND here. Validation rule again in a slightly different form. I can modify what's allowed there, because remember, our databases is the foundation. Our tables are our foundations of our databases. We want to keep the data in there as pure as we can. So that's requiring that the data can only be one of those three values. Okay, now we're going to another modification, the account number field. We're going to have a requirement on there of it being in a specific format of a number. Well, how do we specify format? Let's see here. Up in account number format right there. What we're going to type here is just greater, just the greater than symbol. And all that means is as they type, anything lowercase will get converted to uppercase. So if they type in lowercase initials of the company and the number, it'll turn every alphabetical into capital. Alright, now that we've made these changes, if I go to Datasheet View, it will automatically ask me, do I want to save any changes? It's going to warn me again, these rules I've made, I'm going to have to check against the existing data. That's all that means, and I'll go yes. I want to continue. And it's verified that the current data does satisfy all the rules that I applied. In the book, they tell you to click no, but I want to just prove that, hey, I haven't caused a problem with my data. And they show us here of entering new data for some user. I don't think they make us do it. They just show us how it's done. Now, just to see the effects of this, they ask us to now go ahead and change a few fields, such as, all right, let's come check. So data types, validation rules, changing the contents now of a field now that we have more room. So this guy, where is it? The BL235. Here it is. BL235. We're changing that street and we're going to put, what do we put in there here? We're going to put 100 South Granger Highway. And because we made more room, it's not cutting it off like it may have before, limiting it to 20. So that's showing that, yes, we have more room for our names now. We can type longer street names. And we've always shown you that you can use the lookup fields. We've already done that. Notice that update, change any service or account types that we've already made. It wiped out any settings that we had made. That's the danger of update queries. They ignore what's there when you say change everything to SER. So just seeing how that behaves. They give us a list of all the account names and types and services needed. I'm not going to make you go through that whole table, but go in through some of the services types and go ahead and set it. Just show how that works on a few of them. You don't have to do the whole table. As long as I can see that you have multi-valued field available. The actual, and notice this doesn't save your changes unless you go to the bottom and click OK. So in figure 3-50, you don't have to enter all that data. But do make a change to a few of the things. All right, now that we've made those changes, it doesn't update the forms that we had created. I'm closing this, saving my changes. Coming back here, the forms I made before, like of the manager and accounts or the account, it doesn't keep track of any of that new information. If I want a form that represents the current data, I do the 3-click method to make a form. Remember the 3 clicks. Choose the table you want to create a form for. Choose the Create tab, and choose Form. The easiest way to make a form. And now look at there, the services needed show up. And if I collapse this, I will see that over to the very far right, I have a choice of what to put here. I have to view it in Form View. There we go. And now it gives me a choice as I browse through my table. I'm going to go back to Layout View, and they made this form way wider than it needs to be. I'm going to narrow this a bit by selecting. Let's see if will it let me narrow all of them. Oh, maybe not. I was hoping I could just select all of them and narrow them all at once. Never mind, I'll leave it the way it created it. Remember the 3-click method to create that form. It recreates it based on what's in the table. So choose the table, choose Create, and Form for entering data. I might as well do the same thing for a report. The account financial report. Yeah, save the new form. If you want to just call it account, that's fine. Now they're going to show you, rather than recreate the report, we're going to update an existing report to reflect the changes in the table. I could have gone back and recreated the account financial report, but I'd have to remember what I did using the wizard. This time, let's try doing it a different way. Opening the existing report and adding additional fields. So I'm going to open that. Right click it's the account manager report. Let's just go ahead and look at it. Open it. And I see the fields here in the report format. Let's go to the Home tab. Let's go to Layout View. And let's come over here and click Add Existing Fields. Now I can select, I'm going to collapse this so I have more room. I can select one of the fields to add to what's going to be displayed in the report. And what they want to show is account type. They want to show that before the amount paid and current due. So I can slide over here. Here is, let's see, service or account type. I can grab account type, click and drag it just to the left of amount paid column. And now it is being added to my report. So report, layout view. If I want to narrow that a bit, I can narrow that just a bit. And services needed, are we going to put that in our report? Oh, we want the total amount field just to the right of current due. So let's get total amount. Remember that calculated field we made? Click and drag that one just to the left of account manager, just to the right of current due. And now I have the calculated total amount due. It's not fitting all on one page yet. I'm not going to worry about that. That's what that dotted line is showing me. And are we going to put services needed? No, it looks like they didn't ask for services needed. Even though we added services needed, they're not asking us to add that to the report. I see this dotted line in my way. Let's see if we can change from landscape or portrait to landscape. Let's get in page setup. Oh, I'm already in landscape. So if I want that to fit on one page, I'd have to come over here and squeeze my fields down a little bit. No big deal if they don't exactly fit. State can always be a little narrower. And let's see how we're doing. Almost on one page. I'll squeeze down current due and amount paid, and I think I can get to fit on one page. There we go. Room to spare. And there is my modified financial report. Adding the additional fields. Remember how that was done? Layout view of my report under the Design tab. Turn on Add Existing Fields. Drag them in to the columns I want them to appear in. And I think we're done with that report, so I can close it and save it. So I'm modifying this, closing it. I'm going to close the existing fields dialog. Close this, saving changes. Yes. So I can always go back to the previous copy of my database for the previous version of the report. Just a couple more things to do on this, on the data sheet. Let's see here. We want to see some totals here. So I go back to datasheet view of my account managers table, right? No, of the accounts table. I'm in datasheet view of my accounts table. Oh, no, they're manager table. Sorry, manager table, account manager table. I have my account managers and their addresses. And what I'm looking for here is the totals. Let's see if we have totals here. There's my totals button. And a total row will show up. And we can add up their salaries. I can decide on the bottom of this column, I want to see the sum of all the salaries. I turned on totals, came to the bottom of the salary column, and chose what kind of total I have available to me. Chose the sum, meaning I will now see the sum of the salaries. I expand the width of that column. I see the sum of all their salaries. Internet not working there? Or the monitor go off? That computer has had trouble in the past. I thought they fixed all the troubles. It was kind of crashing on us. Yeah, but I thought they'd fixed it. Is it kind of froze up there? Oh, we'll see if we can fix that. I'm going to stop here for now because you deserve a little break today. Stop there. We will review and complete things on Monday. I will help you get this computer working here for her. Yeah. All right. Get your Google Drive and get your stuff. Hey, Dan.
We got one of those requests for class forms that actually picked up from Mr. Hubbard for JavaScript.
Yep.
That I need you to get
Object-oriented programming. Java. Okay. I can sign anytime.
Okay. Are you available on the weekend or Sunday or after church or something? If not, maybe Monday is fine.
Yeah, Monday's probably easiest.